Welcome to Credit Chat Live, everyone. I'm Destiny White, your co-host, and I am joined today by Rod Griffin, Senior Director of Consumer Education and Advocacy here at Experian. And we are excited to have Mike Bruemmer, who is the Vice President of Experian Data Breach Resolution Group here at Experian. And he's going to be our guest today to just go into a conversation about identity theft and hacking awareness. Mike has over 35 years of experience and expertise and managing, I believe you said, over 60,000 data breaches,
Yep.
just about. And we're just truly grateful to have Mike's insights and expertise to just chat about different ways that we can all stay protected against identity theft. I just wanted to bring up a situation that happened recently before we jump into our conversation. So in our recent Vision conference, we found out someone was a victim of something called SIM swapping, which I had never heard of. I was shocked to hear it, where this person actually got locked out of their phone and bank accounts and had all of their accounts drained by a hacker. And that is so scary to hear about. And it made me wonder, is this something that I should be concerned about, that we should all be concerned about? And how can our listeners stay ahead of this SIM swapping scheme?
Yes, that's right. Say that fast 3 times, Destiny. First of all, thank you for having me, both you and to Rod. It's always fun being on the podcast. The one thing that I will say is that SIM swapping is probably more common than people realize, because not only do you have a phone, you might have a laptop, a iPad or tablet, and in the case where a lot of these might also have a cellular connection, anytime you have a cellular connection, it's your unique identifier card that allows your phone to communicate with the network. That's what a SIM card is. And it sounds like, under the circumstance, what probably happened was the person had lost their username and password to their phone account, maybe through a different hack, or maybe they got their password manager compromised, but that was generally the start. And so with those two pieces of information, all they need is to be able to put a new SIM card and associate that with the phone. And the way to do that is either go in and try to social engineer a store employee over the phone, or actually go into a store. There might be an insider. But if somebody can get a new SIM card associated with that phone, they take total control over that phone. And in most cases, with financial institutions, government entities, they're going to be required to do any major changes, withdrawals, wire transfers, setting up new accounts, a second factor of authentication, username plus password, and then they send a number to your phone to validate, is this you, or send an SMS text, is this you? That's that second factor of authentication. And then the doors open and you have keys to bank accounts, mortgage accounts, setting it up, establishing a line of credit or a passport or driver's license. And that sounds like really what happened to your friend. And it's unfortunate, but very common.
Used to be they just swiped the magnetic stripe on a credit card. Now it's
The old mag stripe.
Wow.
yeah, we remember that. Destiny probably doesn't. Yeah.
No. Wow. That's.
Or how about the old finger cruncher machine that you used to run the credit cards through, where
Oh
you press
yeah,
down on?
Honestly,
yeah.
never heard of that. Wow. It's almost like this advancement of technology has led to our demise, right? It's actually crazy. And yeah, definitely that two-factor authentication situation is definitely what applied to this person, where when the SIM card was swapped, I guess the hacker had access to their number and was able to get the code and get into the account. So that's so scary. We can now segue into, I guess, the different types of identity theft tactics, if you will. So there's a lot of phrases going around, like social engineering and biometric authentication. It sounds like a lot, and I would love to have you, Mike, break down these tactics, and also maybe you could tell us some of the telltale signs that someone might actually be trying to hack you or get your information.
Sure. Well, social engineering, simply put, is the deception by someone else to manipulate those other people into giving up something valuable. It might be identity information, it could be money, it could be romance, it could be a number of different things, but it's as old of a tactic even before technology came on the scene as anything else. And The other thing you touched on with the second factor of authentication is also what we would call biometric authentication. And with the devices, you can do a retina scan or a face scan. You can do a fingerprint. You can also do a voice print as another way of using your biometrics to authenticate. And those, both social engineering and biometric authentication are buzzwords, because even though people have the protections and are paying attention at times, it's not that hard to social engineer. So someone calls you up, it's a phone call you're not expecting, and they get you to just answer the phone and say, hello, this is Mike Bruemmer. Well, it only takes a 10-second voice print to be able to clone that voice and use Mike Bruemmer's voice with that voice print to go use as a secondary authentication with, let's say, a banking institution, or I'm in the process of buying some additional investment property and taking out a mortgage. And the mortgage company, when you're doing wire transfers, they have a voice print on you. You have to have a username, you have to have a password, you have to have then a text message plus the voice print to be able to even start the wire process. But if you are getting a phone call that you don't expect, or someone sends you a link that says, hey, I know you wanted to see these pictures of our weekend where we went to this wedding of a friend in Lake Tahoe, I put all the pictures out on this link. Don't click on any links, because again, you don't know where that link was generated. You can't tell, and someone could have taken over the person's phone. We talked about SIM swapping earlier, or someone could have taken over their email account. So you don't want to do that. You also don't want to go ahead and be in the situation where you are being asked to give up your social security number. A lot of times people will say, hey, to process your pharmacy transaction, we need your social security number. No, you don't. You don't need your social security number for any medical or pharmaceutical appointments or prescriptions. They're asking it for the reason of just having another way to track you down if you don't pay your bill. But in terms of providing services, they don't need to do that. So social engineering relies on people either being not aware of what's going on, or at the same time being rushed into, hey, we have your grandson here in Mexico on the phone, right by here. You can listen to his voice. They have a voice print that they're faking, and they say, we need you to transfer out of your account $10,000. Otherwise, we're going to chop them up into little pieces and throw them into the ocean. Well, preying on grandpa and grandma to do that, they're very scared. There's a pressure tactic. One, don't answer the phone call. Two, don't buy into a pressure tactic like that. And I know I'm not trying to be heartless about little Johnny, but it's those social engineering situations that actually become more common day after day.
Well, and it's the I think, Mike, what we're driving at is they're using fear or loneliness or lack of knowledge that creates uneasiness to cause you to take an action. Actually ran into an instance where it was a kind of the opposite. It was about getting someone excited about an opportunity to do something for their spouse. So it was, driven by, can I do something nice, like get, a piece of jewelry or tickets to an event, and you're immediately going, yes, I actually want to do that. So you click on the link, and it looks like an ad, but it's something they know that you would be interested in. They've gotten data somewhere that shows, that you and your spouse like to do something, and it's like, whoops, now they have your information. So fear and emotion, it's hard. We were talking before we started about drifting. I'm going to drift a little bit. So
I knew you would.
So when we talk about voice prints, we talk about biometrics. That sounds like artificial intelligence may have a role in that too. Are we seeing, kind of leading into, I think, more of a conversation destiny too? What is AI starting to look like? Is that something that you're seeing more of, and use of AI to social engineer behavior?
Yes. is the short answer, Rod. Where the hackers have really taken their game to the next level. Last year, in our 10th year of doing our annual data breach industry forecast, we made a 10-year prediction, and we said the hackers are going to continue to stay ahead of the people defending organizations that are their own personal cybersecurity. And AI has been a game changer for the hackers. And I'll give you a specific example. 5 or 6 years ago, in order to be a hacker, you had to be a coder. You had to know technology. You had to know infrastructure and all that. Now, all you have to have are these and a device. As long as you can type and follow commands, you can go out on the internet, and with the use of AI, hackers have built what we call rootkits that are for sale. The kit is downloaded onto your machine. You follow the instructions, and you can execute a cyber attack, whether it's involving ransomware or not, whether it's just breaking into something, whether it's sitting in wait. Anybody with very little knowledge and just an internet connection, generally a Tor browser because they're operating off the grid, they can go ahead and execute an attack without a lot of technical knowledge. And AI has allowed the democratization of hacking, where people, whether they're nation state hackers in a call center in a large country over on the other side of the world, or whether it's someone in their garage in a Eastern or Western European country that may be just fooling around, you can buy the stuff, punch in the keys, and you execute the attack. And AI is the reason for that.
That's so scary. It's really scary to think about. And Mike, with that being said, are there any other trends that you're seeing that people should keep an eye out for? And are there ways to proactively defend yourself against these evolving threats?
Destiny, I'll separate those out. A couple other things that I've noticed that are recent trends besides social engineering, and social engineering particularly targeting people with elevated user access. So it's all about getting in and then staying, deciding what you're going to take, generally doing a slow exit or putting ransomware on it. But people that are administrators, C-suite executives that have elevated user privileges are the tip of the spear in terms of target for social engineering. But I'll mention two other ones that have come up recently. With the recent economy the way it is, a lot of people being laid off or their jobs offshored, there's a lot of people out there hunting for jobs. So one of the new scams is fake job posting websites, because you're anxious and motivated to get a job. You're asked questions about, okay, you have to fill out this profile, name, address, where you live, maybe a credit card information, small handling fee. Well, it's really not. They just want to steal your credit card. Put in your social because we have to do a background check on you, all of this stuff, and poof, the information's put in and it's gone. That simple. The other thing that's been around since the pandemic that's still coming back is the use of the good old QR code, because to make it easy for consumers to see a menu in a restaurant, to see the lineup for tonight's music festival, to go ahead and check, the what's happening in the stock market and get into your trading account. Oh, just click on the QR code. Well, we as human beings, I don't know anybody that can look at a QR code and say, hey, that one's legit, that one isn't. And because it's so consumer friendly, and we all have cameras on our phones and we can go ahead and go click, boom, we're in. That's one that's an easy, simple one that you don't think about. The other thing that's making a comeback is also the use of spoofed Wi-Fi, particularly public Wi-Fi. And it's one of my tips that I'll come back to, as I said, I'd split that question, is that public Wi-Fi is just a no-no all the way around. You can't tell a good Wi-Fi signal, even though it matches up what the legitimate naming convention is for that public Wi-Fi, because anything that's transmitted over that Wi-Fi that's unencrypted can always be taken down. It can be also used to get back into your devices and that. So don't ever click on public Wi-Fi no matter what. And I have encryption and I have a VPN on my devices, but I still don't use it. I just use cellular.
So the coffee shop and the airport and the fast food restaurant are all off limits for
No
Wi-Fi.
deal.
Yes, absolutely. Even to go in, and you see in local coffee chains and airports these free charging stations. Some of these, once you
No.
plug in there, especially without a power block, but you plug right your phone hardwired or not hardwired, but plugged right in there, you can't tell what is real charging, and it may show charging, but it could be downloading. If your phone is unlocked, it can easily
Oh wow!
download information off of your phone.
I
So
guess we
don't
see.
use
Oh
those
my
as well.
goodness, that is ridiculous. It's almost like nobody's safe, nothing is safe. And I mindlessly do these things sometimes. I will admit. I mean, I'm the common person, I will use the public Wi-Fi because I'm at the airport and I need to check, my emails and it's extremely slow. So, are you saying that fraudsters can bypass these Wi-Fi networks and get access to whoever's connected, access to their data and their personal stuff just because they're connected to the internet? Is that so?
Yes, what they'll do is even someone that wants to go ahead. So I have a particular internet service provider, and they have a basic naming convention when they set up your network, and it's set up with generally the name of the company, and then 5G or 2.5G, whatever the case may be. I can sit out in a van with a device that's called a Pineapple. And that Pineapple will broadcast a Wi-Fi signal that I've named just like it should be your Wi-Fi in your house. Or if I know that, hey, your dog's name is Duke, and it's Duke 123, which is Rod's home Wi-Fi, I blast out a signal, naming convention Duke 123. Rod comes in, taps on to Duke 123. Well, he's not tapped into his own Verizon ISP. He's tapped into my Pineapple device, and I'm just taking any of the information off of his device. As long as it's unencrypted, and as long as there's no VPN on there, I can pull that down, and away I go.
Yeah.
And
just for
that's
the record,
available in a public space. It's available mobilely. You can go around. Did it actually at one of the Vision conferences.
um, I'm going to drift again a little bit, is because we're talking about kind of what we personally, and Destiny mentioned that you've assisted companies with more than 60,000 breaches. When we think about are we defenseless as individuals, but I think it would be helpful for people to know a bit about what Experian does with our business clients. How do we help them prevent breaches? How do we help them recover? How do we help them protect their customers in the world of fraud? Can you kind of
Sure.
not give up the secret sauce, but what are we doing behind the scenes? Because I think people have a sense that this is just all happening and no one's paying attention, and we really are.
Well, we have two services generally in the breach business for business clients. One is strictly a reactive service. So the client has a data breach. They contact their outside privacy counsel, and they say, hey, we think we've had an incident. They'll get in forensics, and then the attorney makes the decision, yes, it's a notifiable breach. And they say, call Experian. And we provide three things. We provide the notification services anywhere in the world that you mail a letter, can send an email, or can put up a website. We provide the frequently asked question call center, as well as enrollment call center, and then the identity theft protection, like Identity Works, which would include fraud resolution, $1 million worth of insurance, and that's provided to the consumers, paid for by the company that was breached, but it would be contained in the notification, whether it's email or a letter that goes in the consumer's hands. So that's all reactive. Think of it a bit like an emergency room hospital. We don't know someone's coming in with a big breach, a small breach, a broken arm, a heart failure, whatever, but we're open 24/7 and we react to those breaches. On the more proactive side of it, there's Duke. There's the more
Uh-oh.
proactive side of it we have is a program called Reserve Response. And Reserve Response is where we'll spend 6 to 8 weeks with the business client helping them build their own data breach response plan. And we work with them and test that plan. We then also guarantee them for whatever size breach they have, we have the capacity in notification capability, call center capability, and identity theft protection to be able to service it. And then we guarantee the SLAs, whether it's a 1, 2, 3, 5 day SLA to respond to that breach and have all those services available. The Reserve Response program, you pay an annual retainer. The other reactive program, you just pay as you go, but we're available. We can service anything, anywhere in the world, as long as there are services there outside of the OFAC countries and help clients out. And we do that day in and day out with both government entities, quasis, commercial entities, anywhere they need us.
That's fantastic. That's a wonderful coverage. But also, I wanted to just see if you had any tips for the common consumer who want to safeguard their info, both online and offline. If you had any tips.
I always have tips. I have my top 7, and we've covered some of them in the conversation so far. But the top 7 are: don't click on any links. Number 2, don't answer any phone calls from people that you're not expecting a phone call from. So my wife and she'll call me once in a while during the day, but she'll text me and say, hey, I'm going to call you. Is it okay? And I know when she calls, I can pick up the phone. But somebody to take over my wife's phone or spoof the caller ID is easy. So that's why I say somebody is trying to get a hold of you. Generally, a hacker will only try once. And then they'll move on, but don't answer the phone otherwise. Use a VPN, which is a virtual private network. Think of it as a secure tube that goes point to point between your device and another person's device and keeps the information secure. Or encryption, which is basically just scrambling the data so that if somebody got a hold of that data, it's unreadable. So use VPN and or encryption with all of your devices. And there's some legitimate personal encryption tools and VPN tools. Don't buy the free stuff because it's generally fake and it's been hacked. So pay for it, and there's some reputable recommendations. Never use public Wi-Fi. And then the last 3, always use 2-factor authentication. There's some recent breaches in the news where people have been hacked, and it wasn't hacked because the company they were using was hacked. It's because they didn't enable 2-factor authentication to get access into their data, like with a cloud provider. And the last 2 of my favorites are: don't overshare on social media. I know a lot of people have different accounts. I use LinkedIn and Twitter only for business, and I never put any personal information, where I vacation. Hey, my son just got his bachelor's degree and has all his information, or a new driver's license. Don't share that on there. And last but not least, if you get a data breach notification in the mail, and the average person last year got more than 3 notifications because we had so many multiple breaches. So you won't getting 1, but you're getting 3. Read them all carefully. It should tell you what happened, why it happened, and most importantly, how do you protect yourself, and take action. If you're offered a free Identity Works membership from Experian or another type of credit monitoring, sign up for it. Have your kids sign up for it if it's a family membership, and protect yourself. So don't just say, oh gosh, I've been breached again. What do I do? And throw it in the trash. You're throwing an opportunity to help protect yourself right in the trash can.
Wonderful, Mike. Thank you so much.
One of the things I always tell people is, when you think about posting, it's not only the words you type, it's also the images you post. Because people don't realize it's not only the image itself, which can give up a lot of information about yourself. I know people who will put a picture of their minivan, which is also usually the first tip, one of the tips. It's a family. And then they have the stickers with the mom and the dad and or the partners and the kids names and the school they go to and their license plate. It's like, how much data is there that an identity thief would want? And then the metadata behind that gives them even more. And then they say, well, and we're going on vacation Thursday and we won't be back for 2 weeks.
The house is empty. It's you and the alarm system.
So it's just, so it's not only the identity thieves then, it's like, oh, we're going to pay the house a visit too.
Oh my God.
So much information that we share, and it's so easy to overshare.
You're so right.
With social
media.
Right. And it's a interesting world we live in. What do you see? What's the next thing on the horizon in terms of fraud and identity theft? I mean, we kind of touched on AI, but is there anything that we're seeing that's, that looks like something we should be thinking about in the next year or 2 or 5 or 10?
Well, we've seen in the last year some large breaches on the commercial side that are hacker to business, B2B more so. But instead of going after the large intersections of data, and these are second, third, and fourth party breaches. So it's not the company they're after necessarily. What they're targeting is, what's the secure file transfer methodology that they use? What's their cloud provider? Who's their accounting service? Or where did they have to do their government registry? They go to the intersection so they can hit one point, but catch a bunch of businesses. Then they go ahead, lock up the data, ask for a ransom to unlock that data, or ask for another ransom to not put the data out on the dark web, or make a copy, keep the data, and ask for the ransom. One of the trends that is just starting to emerge that I think we're going to see more of is ransom on a point-to-point directly to consumer. So they're with all this consumer data out there, you take over the internet service provider and you go after individuals and say, hey, Rod Griffin, I now have your data. I'm also going to, I know what social media sites you're on, and I know what church you go to, and I'm going to put porn up on your social media sites and send it to all the members of the church that you go to unless you pay me a ransom. And for that, they're taking it from the commercial side to the one-to-one personal side. And I think if people don't follow some of the tips that I'm talking about, as well as protect their devices, you're going to see more of that coming up. That's probably one of the newest ones that on the horizon. It's a preferred process that's worked on the commercial side. And the hackers generally, if they find something that works one place, they'll port it over to another angle. It's the old, hey, tried and true, let's try it someplace else.
Wow.
Gosh, literally terrifying. This is all so scary. And
I'm good destiny with the FUD. It's not intentional. But a little bit of FUD to make sure that people take it seriously is important.
Yeah.
And that's an okay call to action, I think.
Yeah, I think so, Mike. And with the SIM card swiping, is there any way that people can protect themselves from that happening?
Well, I didn't recommend this in my top 7 things, and I probably would put it more on the list, and I'm remiss in not adding it, is I don't believe that anybody should keep passwords in an Excel spreadsheet, on Post-it notes, or anything other than a secure password manager, because a secure password manager means you only have to remember one password. 2, it will also auto-generate a unique, long, and secure password if you need it to, versus you using Duke's name like Rod does. And I keep picking on Rod, just jokingly.
That's okay.
Using Duke as his password. But you should use a password manager. And I think if you don't give up your passwords and or create long random ones and change them regularly, we all know Experian, we have to change our passwords 30 or 60 days for just access to our machines. And I think that's a really good best practice for cybersecurity. that will help. Also, your device is gold, and make sure it's always got two-factor authentication. Make sure it's always locked, and don't ever lose chain of custody of this device, because all it takes is someone even going through the security gate at the airport. You're talking on the phone, you say, oh, hold on, I'm going through security, stick it in the tunnel. It's unlocked on the other end. If someone sees your phone and you get tied up in the metal detector, they pick up your phone, they can go ahead and use your phone. It's open. So don't lose chain of custody, whether it's your iPad or your cellular phone.
Super good. Thank you so much, Mike. That's really, really good. Good tips, good advice. Really appreciate it. I love this conversation. I feel safer.
Yeah. Well, more aware.
But be aware. You really have to be aware, and that relies that it starts with you. There's a phrase that we use in the cybersecurity business is zero trust and always verify. And I think that's something we do at Experian. And you have to put that bubble around you as don't trust anybody, because there can be so many accounts that can be hacked, and then verify and double check. Emails, photos, that could be sent to open up, it's a really interesting photo. You click on that link, it pops up, and they've downloaded malware on your phone. So zero trust and always verify.
Thank you so much.
Always great to talk to you, Mike. Always learn some things.
Thank you very much for having me. It's always fun, and I appreciate it. And if there's anything you all need between now and when this is broadcast, if you want to add a segment or do whatever, I'm happy to do it. It's always fun.
Thank you, Mike.